Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for The Walking Dead Season 6. And what this video is going to be doing is giving my mid-season finale death predictions. Who I think might die in the upcoming mid-season finale. This video will contain major spoilers from the comics and from the TV show. So if you are not caught up, if you do not want to know anything at all, exit the video and come back at a later time, because otherwise you will be spoiled. I can guarantee it. Okay. So first, I'm going to do a quick run through, of characters that I think are safe. Obviously, Rick, safe. Carl may lose his eye, but I doubt that it's going to be fatal. I think that he will survive, and I think that he'll be fine. Michonne, no. I think she's got too much coming up in the story for them to kill her off. Daryl, if he dies, we riot. It's not going to happen, especially not in the mid-season finale. Glenn and Maggie, why would they, show Glenn to be alive just to kill him off in the mid-season finale, or to kill Maggie? It just doesn't make sense. I think there's a reunion in store for them. I'm going to say no. Carol, too important. Has, I think, some very good things coming up. And Robert Kirkman has said that, Carol is one of the safest characters on the show. So I'm going to say no. Abraham, I'm going to say no, and that kind of goes hand in hand with Sasha and Rosita surviving as well. Because now that love triangle has kind of been established a little bit, where Abraham's going to, break up with Rosita, I think they're going to play that story out. I don't think that they're going to avoid that story. I think it's going to happen. We're going to see the ramifications of Abraham breaking up with Rosita and his relationship with Sasha. So I think all three of them are safe. And Eugene, Eugene has a lot of important stories in the comics. I think there's a lot of building that they can do with his character, and I think they're going to act on that. I don't think they're going to kill him off without, showing those stories. I think he has a lot of building to do. I say no. But that brings me to three characters from Rick's group, or Rick's core, if you will, that I think may be in danger. One of them is Gabriel. I'm going to put about a 50-50 chance on it. I think there are very numerous reasons for why it might happen, but I think there's arguments as to why it may not happen. On the one hand, his character could use a lot of redeeming. We've seen that his character has, betrayed Rick's group. He told Deanna that they were dangerous, and, it kind of put them in very, strained relationships with the community, and Rick blames them a lot for that, and, at this point, he really fails to be acknowledged by anybody, particularly Rick, and I think he could use some redeeming. In the comic books, Gabriel has an important role in this episode, or around this time, where when the walkers breach the walls, he does open up his church, or his place that he lives, which he's using as a church, and lets people in. So in a sense, redeeming himself a little bit there. And then he, goes out and he fights. He fights some of the walkers, and, he contributes to the group. This may be his redeeming moment. He may help people, may help Rick, may help Carl, may help somebody that will really make Rick, I think, look, at a different way at Gabriel. And if Gabriel survives, we may see him becoming more important. But on the other hand, I think one way or the other he will redeem himself, but whether he will survive as a result of it is questionable. His character really doesn't have much of a story after this point in the comics. He really just fades into nothing. He sees over some of the funerals that happen in the community later on down in the story. And after the time jump, he's just kind of there. He really hasn't done much to make him significant. So I could see a story that they change here. They maybe do kill Gabriel off, redeeming him, and that may be the way that they go with the character to atone for his sins. But I could also see him surviving and becoming more important. So we'll see. I give it 50-50. Tara is another character that I think is really, I say it's a 50-50. I think that there are some signs that may indicate it may happen. And there might be other arguments for why she should live or why, somebody might come to her rescue. For one, there were moments in Heads Up that kind of foreshadow some things with Tara. Remembering that speech that Rosita gave to Eugene about, surviving is scarier because if you fail to save someone, you have to live with that. Eugene and Tara are very close as characters. They're friends, they really identify with each other. Tara's really been there for him on a lot of occasions, and Eugene has already saved her life once. We saw that happen. But different situation, different times, and we've seen that Eugene, he has these moments of bravery, but when it comes to consistently being able to, hold his own and, be brave and help people out, he doesn't have that. I think it's really, when situations change or when they get, the statistics in his mind kind of weigh against survival, I don't think he has hope, and it makes him scared. On the one hand, Tara may be the one thing that pushes him to become more brave as a character. It may be that, Tara does die because Eugene fails to act, and as a result, it kind of makes the prophecy true. But that instead of it putting Eugene down in the future, he would use it as, as inspiration to continue to help and save people. But on the other hand, he may save Tara. So Tara may, get into danger in this episode, and maybe it's the moment that Eugene actually steps up and he saves Tara's life again. So it may, happen one way or the other. He may live, or, he may keep her alive, or he may be the result of her dying, and hence later on it serves as a, inspiration for Eugene to become braver because the prophecy, that Rosita said would in a sense come true. The other thing is, Tara's connection with, this idea of, one for all, all for one, excuse me. When it comes to Alexandria, we saw Tara risk her life to save Spencer, and Rick kind of got, very, offensive about that and really yelled at her. While Rick did apologize later, this idea of whether Rick has truly embraced this idea of looking out for every Alexandria member, or whether, he's just going to discount them, that may not be fully developed within him yet. And, it may take somebody like Tara dying to really, make Rick honor that and may move forward with this idea of, hey, listen, we do need to look out for everybody. Tara was right, and I'm going to honor that. And the other person that I think, might die is Morgan. I'm going to say 60-40 on that. I think that there's more factors that may indicate that Morgan will die, or if he doesn't die, it may set up his death for a later episode. Here's why. In the comic books, Morgan does die at this point. He gets bitten by a walker. Michonne amputates his arm, but it's not, enough. He does end up getting infected and dying. And, one thing you can't deny is that if your character is dead in the comics, it gives more of a reason to kill your character off in the TV show. The only exceptions to that rule of comic book characters that are still alive at this point are Carol and Judith. Nobody else. And that's one thing that weighs against Morgan. But things that weigh in his favor is that his character is so much different. In the comics, he's just, suffering still, and really he kind of is used in a way to give Michonne a love interest, but then die and put Michonne in more of a, devastated state. So I think that that's really why he was brought back in the comics, whereas now there's a bigger purpose. It's this Aikido. It's this, a big moral character. And, Morgan has had the most development in this part of the show. He really has been the most fleshed out character in the first half of season 6. And I think that there's a couple of things that might bring him down. The fact that he does want to follow Aikido, as honorable as that is, with that conversation that we had in the last episode that he had with Morgan, Morgan, Michonne, Rick, and Carol talking about what Morgan did by letting the wolves go and whether Aikido is the right thing, this may come to the forefront. That could have been a foreshadowing that, Morgan does admit that he wishes he could let Aikido go at times, that he knows it's hard, that he knows he's put people's lives in danger, but that if he has to abandon it, then there's no reason for him to live. That may come true. He may be forced to kill the wolf, which, really destroys him as a character. I don't think he would commit suicide or anything, but what I'm saying is that if he ends up having to abandon Aikido, I don't know if there's much more that they would do with his character. I think he might get bit by a walker at some point. Another thing that might happen is, we've seen that Carol has confronted Morgan about the wolf. She kind of knows something's going on, and she's going to find out, I think, in this next episode. And there may be a showdown, with Carol and Morgan, as to whether they're going to kill the wolf or not. I think there's a very good chance that the wolf might die. The wolf does have a wound that is infected. I think it's very likely that the wolf might die of the infection, come back as a walker, and kind of like how Eastman stepped in the way of Morgan, whenever that one walker was going to bite him, the one that he had killed earlier in the episode that turned into a walker, that guy. Maybe the same thing here, where the wolf might try to attack Carol as a walker. Morgan might step in the way and get bitten as well. And it's this idea of, well, if you would have just put the wolf down in the first place, it wouldn't have happened. But it allows Morgan to stay true to his ideals. And really, his death may inspire, people to want to follow this. It may give Carol a reason to think, differently, that maybe killing is not always the right solution, that maybe some lives should be preserved. So it may touch her, life, and it might touch Rick's as well. I think that some of the things that happen later on in the story, Rick preserving certain characters' lives rather than killing them. We'll find out a little bit more about that as time goes on. He does not kill some bad guys later on in the series. This may be tied, for the TV show purposes, to Morgan. This idea of honoring Morgan and his ideals and some of the things about Aikido, and that some elements of Aikido may be enough to return the world back to where it was. So I think Morgan could definitely influence characters to do that, and he has a couple of things weighing against him. He may not die in this episode, but he might get bitten and maybe die in the 9th episode. There's really a lot of question about how much material they're going to cover in this episode, so it may not happen until episode 9, but it might happen in this episode, or Morgan might get bit and as a result die later on. So a couple of different possibilities there. In regards to Alexandria residents, one of the people I think that is at risk is Tobin. We saw, Tobin talking with Rick in the episode, which kind of was a little significant. I thought he had a very good conversation with him. Tobin dying, may give Rick that idea of, hey, Tobin had faith in me. Maybe I should give some faith in some other people. A couple of other things too. It looks like Tobin is wounded. In the trailer, he fell down, like he was on the ground, he had some blood, so maybe there was some debris that hit him. He may get stunned. As a result, he might fall and walkers might eat him. In the comics, he tried to back a truck up against the wall, and the walkers ended up tearing it down, and he gets eaten. He may try some kind of a rescue effort, and as a result may get killed in the process. Or, maybe he does sacrifice himself. Maybe he might get bitten as a result of, falling down, being wounded. He may go out like a hero. I think there's a couple of arguments for all that, but the fact that Tobin does die at this time in the comics does give me reason to believe that it may come true in the TV show as well. I think Deanna is another character, and I think there is like a 90% chance that Deanna is going to die in the mid-season finale. Douglas, the character that is the comic book counterpart of Deanna, he dies at this point in the comic books as well. And I think that Deanna's death is something that, would allow Rick to solidify himself as the leader. But I think it would also give people inspiration to really want to make this community just like how it was, or as close to it, but better as well, to honor Deanna. You kind of saw a little foreshadowing with Deanna, Deanna making those plans, leaving a legacy for Alexandria that people might use. And that's something that they would remember Deanna by and honor her with, as well as that quote, we have to plan for the future. We have to plan for expansion, because no matter what happens, there's going to be a future. But it doesn't necessarily include her. So I think there's a very good chance Deanna's going to die. I don't think she'll die the same way, though. Douglas gets, depressed after Regina gets killed, and he ends up committing suicide by Walker, is what I call it. He walks out, starts shooting, random shots at walkers, gets bitten and devoured, which of course results in Carl's eye being shot out. I don't think Deanna will do that. I don't think she's suicidal. I think really, she's either going to get injured in some way and get bitten, or, she might get injured. We see debris flying, Tobin being on the ground. There may be, a possibility that, with that tower falling, with pieces of the wall, coming down, that may send pieces flying, and one of them may hit Deanna and mortally wound her. Or, she might be running away and she might, get knocked down by a walker, might impale herself. She might go out fighting to save her son, Spencer. She may, fight to save Rick or Carl. I think she's going to go out a hero, no matter what. I don't think she's going to commit suicide like she does in the comics. No way. And then we get to some very big moments with Jesse, Ron, and Sam. I think there's a very good chance that maybe all three of these characters may die in the mid-season finale. We saw in the last episode that Ron looked like he wanted to shoot Carl, and he didn't do it. And there may be a little bit of restraint there with Ron, the fact that he has his mother, he has Sam, that maybe that is enough to keep him from doing that. Maybe he has that thought going through his head. If I do this, this might be really bad for my family. They may look down upon me. That may be enough that is stopping him at this point from doing anything. But, I think that no matter what happens, Rick, Jesse, Ron, Sam, Carl, maybe Michonne, and maybe one or two other characters, kind of like in the comics, I think we'll be stuck in the same house together. I think there's a very good chance that Rick and Jesse may have some kind of conversation, solidifying their feelings, or maybe, questioning again, whether they should do this. We may find out that Rick has slept with Jesse, that maybe it wasn't just a kiss in that episode, that maybe it was actual physical relations. Ron may hear about this, maybe become a little enraged. It may push him further. But I think there will be a plan like how they do in the comics. And what happens in the comics is, with the amount of walkers, Rick is able to get some of the walker bodies inside. They put on these ponchos and they cover themselves with walker guts. And Rick, Ron, Jesse, Michonne, and Carl try to go across and go through the herd. And Ron ends up getting bitten. And then Jesse ends up, holding on to Ron, trying to save him. Jesse's holding on to Carl's hand, won't let go. Jesse starts to get bitten. And in order to prevent Carl from getting injured, Rick chops off Jesse's hand. I think something similar will go down. I think that there's a very good chance that instead of it being Ron, that it's going to be Sam, because Sam is kind of like the comic book of Ron. Younger, more vulnerable. I think that it's going to be Sam that gets bitten. I think that's going to happen. Jesse is going to, hold on to him, try to save him. Just, is hysterical over the fact that she's losing her son. She might get bitten, or I think that she's going to grab a hold of Carl, won't let go. I think that Rick is going to have to chop Jesse's hand off. And seeing Sam and Jesse, his mother and his brother, dying, I think that might be enough to enrage Ron. And I think there's a very, very good chance that Ron might try to kill Carl and Rick for what happened. and he may try to kill Rick first. He may try to kill Carl, and I think the bullet's going to pass through Carl's eye, just like how it happens in the comics, but Ron being the cause. And at that point, Rick might shoot Ron, or maybe Ron might get devoured by walkers. Something along those lines might happen, but I think that it's very, very, very likely that they're going to play that out in the TV show. I think there's a lot of hints looking at it that way, and I think that event might be enough to push Ron over the edge. So those are my predictions. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me? Do you think that's what's going to happen? Is there somebody I'm not considering? Or have I considered somebody incorrectly? Let me know what you think. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.